Hello, everyone, ladies, all the moms. Today, we're talking to all the moms and all the grandmothers. And hey, you guys, give me just 1 second. I need to. I'm gonna fire off Instagram so Instagrammers can see us as well. Um, One of the cool things is that we are broadcasting to like four different platforms at the same time.
So cool.
So that's the benefit of doing this. So, all right, looks like we are live on Instagram. Hello, Facebook and Instagram and YouTube. This is a little different call, you guys, because you always you can always expect content from us related to women's hormones, and we typically talk about perimenopause, menopause. So this is kind of unusual that we've got a pediatrician here with us. But guess what? I think almost every one of us, with a few exceptions, is a mom or a grandma, and I thought this book is so much in need that we should really be talking about it on even on a platform like ours that is dedicated to a slightly different topic. And so hopefully you find this helpful, inspiring, because with me today is Dr. Elisa Song, who is just a wonderful, wonderful human. Um, I know her as a colleague and as a friend, but beyond all of this, she really is quite extraordinary person. So just a quick recap: you are a Stanford and NYU and UCFF trained integrative pediatrician. You've got a practice in San Francisco. I have known you for your proness in social media and how you managed to get pretty complex concepts and really simplified it and get it really presented in a way that really resonates with moms. So let me ask you this. Almost every kid today you talk to, a mom, has got some health issues that we didn't see 20, 30 years ago. I remember when I was growing up, we just didn't have that kind of stuff going on. Almost every kid has got allergies, digestive issues, some kind of mental health issues, right?
Yeah.
Allergies, skin issues, and the list just goes on. Where do we start with a mom who's listening to this, or the grandma who's listening to this, right, and saying like, yeah, my kiddo has all of those things.
Yeah.
Where do we
Well,
start?
and and for also all the moms or grandmas listening who, have hormone imbalances, and that's why they follow you, and very often autoimmune issues that go with it. The question I get from a lot of parents is, how do I prevent that from happening to my kids? And really, why I wrote the book is to really share with parents and with kids and teens and even grandparents what they need to know to be proactive, truly proactive about their kids' health, to try to prevent all these things from happening. Or if their kids are already showing signs of some issues, as you said, I mean, at least, it's nearly 50% of kids right now, probably more, have some sort of chronic health concern. And that number is rising. And so, the foundation, and many of your listeners, they've heard that all health starts in the gut. And that's why we look at the gut and the microbiome. But for children, it is especially true. The state of your child developing gut microbiome influences your child's developing immune system and your child's developing brain, and even their developing metabolic processes and the hormones that are going to, really take over a decade from when your kids are born. So, when we think about optimizing, the having our kids grow up to be the healthy, thriving young adults that we want them to be, it starts with their microbiome.
So when you say that, like, what does that mean? So just to let you know, we have few people watching, like what you see on the screen, that's on Facebook. Then we have a lot more people on Instagram. And for example, Amber is saying my child has all of those things.
Yeah.
When you have a mom like that, where does she start, and how does your book walk women through this without overwhelm? So we are broadcasting to
Yeah, and I'm looking in on Instagram because I'll just pop in and see the questions as they come. But so the foundations, right? So I start off with some of the research just to provide the background. We know that for infants who have received antibiotics or antacid medications in the first 6 months of life, some of these very large studies have shown that alone, because of the disruption to their gut microbiome and how it's influencing your child's immune system, can increase the risk of virtually every single allergic disease by the time they're 4 years of age. And that includes eczema, which 1 in 5 kids has, asthma, which 1 in 10 kids has. We're seeing increasing numbers of anaphylactic food allergies, hay fever. I mean, when I was in training 20 years ago, we didn't have kids with anaphylactic food allergies. That was rare. And now, we're up against EpiPen shortages because so many people need them. And then also with antibiotic use in infants, we've also seen that in early infancy, when infants are exposed to antibiotics, even in utero, or even, if you were vaginally birthed, or during delivery, up through those first 6 months of life, that can increase the risk of mental health concerns when your child is older by up to 50%. So why is that? Well, 80% of your child's immune system is in their gut. 80 to 90% of all of our what we consider quote brain chemicals like serotonin that help us manage anxiety, worries, helps us to sleep, that's made by our gut microbiome. So those numbers can sound a little scary. And then when you have a family, a parent who says, well, oh my God, my kid did get antibiotics when they were young. Is that why they have anxiety? Is that why they have eczema? I do think it could be playing a role, but it's also an opportunity. That aha moment, that knowledge, that recognition is then that opportunity to say, okay, well, I can't undo the past, but now I know that I have to look at my child's gut, as opposed to before when it was, on the skin and you're seeing the dermatologist, or they have anxiety and you're seeing the psychiatrist, and nobody's telling you to look at their gut. Now you know. And we can always, no matter what state of health your kid is in, we can always restore their microbiome. But the first step is the knowing, right? The knowing that, hey, it's not a gut problem, but actually it is a microbiome problem, and we want to sort that out.
So talk about your book, and what are some of the steps in your book you're covering? Do you have recipes, protocols? Like, what can a mom do to restore the digestive health of a kiddo?
Yeah. So in the book, I go through, and so I wrote this from the knowledge that I've gained.
Can you show the book?
Yes. Yeah. You'll get your copy when you're in the States.
Yes. Yeah. I just put on a yellow, so at least I'm like in unity with you on the color side of things.
Yes, I see your yellow shirt. Look at that. So it's called Healthy Kids, Happy Kids, an Integrative Pediatrician's Guide to Whole Child Resilience. And it was published yesterday. It's out in the world right now. You can find it at any major retailer, even in bookstores like Barnes and Noble. But I wrote it from, really to give parents and practitioners everything I've really had the honor to learn over the past 20 years as an integrative and functional medicine pediatrician. But I also wrote it as a mom, right? Because, as women, as busy women, adding one more thing to do can feel so overwhelming. So I wrote it in a way to give parents and children and teenagers really practical tips to know the things that they can really do in small ways to improve their microbiome. So I talk about the 5 things for microbiome magic. And these are 5 things that you and your kids are already doing every day. We have to eat every day. We have to sleep every day. We have to hydrate and move. We even have to breathe every day, right? And by breathe, I mean engaging our vagus nerve. So how do we do all of those 5 things that we're already doing, but then we learn and we educate ourselves on how to do them in a way that creates microbiome resilience. So that's the key. And then in order to do that, I give lots of practical tips. I give fun exercises to do. I have recipes. I have there's probably about 20 recipes in here, but the recipes that really help you to think creatively about getting in our microbiome champions, the different nutrients in our food that really help to keep our microbiome healthy and happy.
You guys, for those of you joining us late, I've got Dr. Lisa Song with us today, who's a functional pediatrician from San Francisco. Just came up with an amazing book called Healthy Kids, Happy Kids. I just posted the link. And is on Amazon, and if you want to shop in other places, I just posted that link in both the social media, both on Instagram, Facebook, and on YouTube. So let's do this as an open Q&As, and she doesn't have a lot of time because she is in the midst of a book launch with interviews and back to back. So we literally have like another 7 to 10 minutes with her. Post your questions and see what's coming up and which direction would you like us to go with this. And while waiting for this, I love the fact that you have this whole chapter, or from what I'm reading, is you have got this section on like how do you empower kids to be the investigators, and you call them the gut heroes, right? Can you talk a little bit about that? That's so cool. It's like a little detective.
Yeah, well, and this is how you get kids hooked. And I know it works because a large part of my book is based on I created a 6-week curriculum, a little seminar for my kids, my daughter's 3rd and 4th grade class. So I had these 8 to 10-year-olds in this room for 6 weeks, and I called it, Healthy Belly, Happy You. And they learned all about the trillions of tiny little, buddies in their belly, these tiny little friends in their tummies, why it's so important to keep them healthy and happy. And I asked, hey guys, who here has ever had trouble sleeping, right? Who here has ever had tummy aches or headaches, or, who's ever had worries that seem so big, and, on and on, right? Who's ever wanted to, be able to, not wiggle as much and get in trouble at school so often? I mean, the things, right? And so, they're all raising their hands, and we're like, how did you know that these tiny trillions of tiny friends in your tummy, they are the ones that can keep you healthy and happy? And so then that led open to, what does that mean, right? How do we live? How much sleep do we need, not just for us, but for our microbiome, because sleep deprivation can disrupt your microbiome. How do we move? How do we hydrate? Also in the things that we eat, right? What are the things that we want to get in? So we made, Gut Hero superfood smoothies, all full of fiber and garbanzo beans and frozen cauliflower and the spices, right? You talk so much about spices and herbs. They also act to nourish our microbiome. So we cannot forget about the spices. And then we brewed kombucha and made sauerkraut. So super fun.
Nice.
And then, so that's, learning what to get in, but also learning what to keep out. So I brought in all sorts of examples of packaged foods that, of course, kids love: the unicorn colored fruit roll-ups, and, the even the things that seem healthy, right? Like the pomegranate juice. And we counted sugar, we did sugar cubes, and we saw, oh my gosh, this vanilla Greek yogurt that is organic and healthy has, like, almost 8 cubes or 8 teaspoons of sugar in one serving. So it's sort of this, like, let's just educate ourselves, right? And they learned how to read food labels. It was so empowering, because that's what I want. I want parents to actually read this with their kids, because I had parents call me and say, I cannot believe that, Johnny actually put this package back because he said, Mom, it has artificial something. We don't want that. So when we can empower our kids with these tools, and it's also a way that we can also learn ourselves, because guaranteed, I mean, before I did all this research, I was buying foods that I thought were healthy for my kids as a holistic pediatrician, right? And then when I learned all this and I looked, I'm like, oh my gosh, like that yogurt example, that was me. I didn't look at the grams of added sugar, and I'm thinking, Greek yogurt, I'm going to start them off with protein and with probiotics, and oh, what a great breakfast. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I'm sending them off with 6 teaspoons of sugar. No wonder they're having trouble focusing, or, getting into fights with their friends, or whatever it is, right? So, so I know this works, and that's why in the book it's about, like, I don't want to say gamifying, but kind of. It makes it fun. It gives kids challenges, and it makes it fun for you as a family. And when we make it fun and memorable for kids, then as a parent, you don't have to nag as much, and also you get the whole family involved. So that's what I love. And then, but then, for families listening who have the kids with the eczema or the anxiety, and they know, all right, my child's gut microbiome is probably already needs fixing, right? Is disrupted. I have a whole section in the book on how I help kids in my practice. I call it the gut reset. So resetting their gut, because you may not have a pediatrician near you who can help you understand, is testing needed or not? What, even when you get the results, what do you do? Are there supplements that you might need? What are the dosages? So all of that is mapped out. It's
Yeah.
even, I've had practitioners who are getting the book because they don't work with a lot of kids, or they're just starting out in this world as a pediatrician. And they also want to know,
Yeah.
how do I think about doing the testing or the supplements or the whatever. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I just want people to have fun with it. And one of the recipes in the book, because when we talk about fermented foods and how powerful they are for, I mean, it's not just our gut microbiome, but our skin, our immune system, how our brain is thinking and functioning. A lot of us, we think, oh, there's no way my kids are going to have sauerkraut or kimchi, right? It's not. I have some kids who love sauerkraut, so it's not impossible. But for many kids, it's not, it's a not yet, right? And so in the book, I have a recipe for fermented blackberry lemonade, which is so
Oh,
easy to make, so good. So as we're heading into the summer, if you're in the northern hemisphere, just you can brew a whole batch, make them into popsicles, put them into your smoothies. I mean, it's about thinking creatively. And so my goal is to just give parents ideas and kids ideas that, are, when you look, you're like, oh, this is so simple. Why didn't I think about that? But oftentimes we need someone to say, hey, do that. And then we can think more.
I just reconnected with my friend's daughter. I had not seen her in probably 15 years, and she was a kiddo back then. And I thought her for the first time, gave her a knife and asked her to help me chop things
Yeah.
herself. And so the mom was perfectly fine with it, but she remembers it till today. And she said, that was the day I learned how to chop vegetables. And she
My
loved
gosh.
it. And she remembers it till today, us making, I didn't even remember that part. I didn't remember what we cooked. And she remembered exactly what we cooked and how to hold the knife. And so, yeah, just getting them involved and making it fun. I love that. Talk to us about when you fix the kiddo's microbiome, like what are some of the beautiful benefits that starts unfolding in a child's health that you see that women, a lot of moms don't realize it was because of the microbiome deficiency.
Yeah. Well, what's fascinating is because your microbiome, even as an adult, right, your microbiome is so intimately linked with your mood and cognitive functioning, with your immune functioning, with your hormones, with your blood sugar regulation. I mean, all of your heart health. It's fascinating because when you quote restore or heal the gut microbiome, we can see these ripple effects on so many other systems in our body that we had no idea were even off, right? Because sometimes when you're living with chronic health concerns, you don't realize that that one thing that you're experiencing every day is actually not normal until it's gone, right? Until you don't have that symptom anymore and you realize, wow, I can't remember the last time I woke up and my knees didn't hurt, right? I mean, it's sometimes in the absence that we realize that. So for kids, well, I mean, I'll tell you some of the stories. I mean, I had this one kiddo who, well, let's talk about autoimmunity because that is on the rise in kids and adults. So I have one family where this one girl in middle school, she was diagnosed with both Crohn's disease and juvenile arthritis. Her younger brother, a few years later, was diagnosed with juvenile arthritis. So clearly, runs in the family, right? But I'm here to say just because something runs in the family does not mean that you have to get it. It is not set in stone. So, we started doing some work, started tweaking their diet and lifestyle. But as you can imagine, dietary changes can be challenging, especially if I'm telling them to give a break off of gluten because that's really highly inflammatory. But they worked on it and they started getting better. But it wasn't until we looked at their microbiome and realized that they have this one particular bacteria in their gut that can predispose to autoimmunity. It's called Klebsiella. Treated the Klebsiella and they went into remission. I mean, that
Wow.
was like the final bridge, right? It
Yeah.
can be really that powerful. Another kiddo who she was like an early teen, and she had had anxiety and ADHD, almost her whole life, and so she had been on medication after medication after medication, and she was starting to harm herself, right? And so the mom came to me and said, "Look, the medicines are really." They're just taking the edge off maybe a little bit, but we know that, anxiety medications, depression medications, they have a 50% success rate. What does that mean? 50% don't work, right? For 50% of people who try them, it won't work for. And so So she came to me and, again, we cleaned up her diet and worked on that. But then when we looked at her gut microbiome and realized that she had some inflammation in there, so we did some herbs to reduce the inflammation. And then we balanced her gut. She didn't have any significantly bad bacteria, but she did have some, high-ish levels of yeast in her gut. As soon as we cleaned that out, I mean, I actually saved the card that her mom sent to me because she wrote me a handwritten card, which is so beautiful nowadays anyway, right? To get a handwritten card.
Yeah.
And she just said, Elisa, thank you so much. I just, we have our daughter back now. She's smiling for the first time and like she can't remember. She's wanting to hang out with friends again and wanting to be around the family. She's a pleasure to be around instead of walking on eggshells. And I'm like, oh my gosh, she's like, this is something that medications never did for her, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so,
That's
it's
incredible.
and I'm not saying that there's not a time and a place for medications. I mean, I do prescribe medications at times, but when we can get at the foundations and restore the microbiomes, um, sometimes medications won't be necessary. If they're on medications, sometimes we can successfully wean them, but don't wean them without your doctor, right? And if they do need medications, they often need just a little bit so that then we're not having the side effects of the medications.
Absolutely. So let's take a couple of questions that came in. Amber is saying, my daughter had antiviral medicine at 2 years old and now has a list of allergies, eczema, asthma, constantly sick, 6 years on. What hope can you give a mom like that?
Yeah, well, we know. So there are certain bacterial probiotic strains that you can take as a supplement or even that are in your gut that they communicate. Remember, 80% of your immune system is in your gut. And so if we can support the microbiome to have some of these strains that communicate with your immune system, then we can reduce the risks of, reduce allergies. In fact, there are certain probiotics that have been shown to help reduce hay fever symptoms. With frequent cold and infections, there are particular probiotic strains that can reduce the numbers of fevers in the winter, colds and flus, and also missed days of school. I mean, if you're a parent, who doesn't want that, right? And so, that's so I would say working on the microbiome. And it's interesting that you say antiviral, right? Because when we think of antiviral, we think, well, antiviral medicines shouldn't kill bacteria. But what we now know is that there are many, many non-antibiotic medications that can disrupt the gut microbiome, including certain antiviral medications, including antidepressant medications, birth control pills, steroids,
Right.
of course,
So that's kind
reflux
of misleading,
medicine.
right? Because the mom is giving a kiddo an antiviral, thinking this is not an antibacterial because it's not an antibiotic, and thinking that it's like that false sense of security,
Yeah.
right? That is being. One other thing, let's just take one more question before we wrap up. Oyasi is asking, must do supplements for kids from young age, like 12 months and so. Yeah, this is a very broad question.
Yeah. I would say, obviously, it's not, maybe not obviously. I am of the mindset that, if really we could get everything from our food, that's where we should go first. I mean, food is information, food is medicine, and we want to treat food that way. We want to give it the respect that and our bodies and our brains the respect that we should have. But sometimes kids need more, and there are certain nutrient deficiencies that are very, very common in children, and probably the same ones as in adults, but zinc, magnesium, iron, omega-3 fatty acids, vitamin D. And so, in the book, I also list signs to look at that maybe your child might be deficient in those. Picky eating, that's a huge red flag that your child probably is zinc deficient or insufficient. So, but, there are some, so do I recommend that all kids be on multivitamin? Well, first of all, I have to say, I have not found a kid's multivitamin that I am in love with. I mean, that's just the truth of it. There's not one that I'm like, oh my gosh, this is perfect. So I'm still on the hunt for that. But when we are suspicious of certain nutrient deficiencies, yeah, I think that could be that is something where I will supplement. When kids are really not having enough fiber, which 95% of kids don't, or enough of the phytonutrients or plants in their diet, then yes, you can use as a stopgap measure, get, a fiber or plant-based, phytonutrient powder and use that in your smoothies or in their drinks. But we still work on food as medicine because nothing is more bioavailable and useful for your body and your microbiome than the actual food.
You guys, so we're talking about Healthy Kids, Happy Kids, and it's available on Amazon now. There is also, I dropped a link if you want to shop in places other than Amazon. Healthy Kids, Happy Kids, there we go. Such an important book, long in the waiting. I know you worked really, really hard on it. You did not have a ghostwriter. You wrote it yourself, and I know how much you've poured into creating this book. Can't wait to get my copy. I am absolutely convinced that this is gonna change thousands of families, not just the kiddos, but the parents as well. And like somebody said on Instagram here, it is our responsibility as a parent. We are the ones that put the food on the pantry, so therefore we need to be more responsible for what our kids eat. So I think that's quite well said. You guys, the book is now available. It just came out, and so go and get it, whether it's your kiddo.
I want to also remind you, because many of you may be new to me and have just been hearing about the book. So I actually am extending the pre-order bonuses through Saturday if you purchase the book by Saturday. So if you go to my webpage that Magdalena put in, healthykidshappykids.com/book, one of the resources I'm so excited about, the pre-bonus orders, is a 2-hour live workshop with me and some experts that are going to come in, and we're going to bring your kids, bring your teens and tweens. We're going to have fun creating microbiome magic. I have an expert coming in to give us a fermented foods cooking demonstration. I have an expert coming in to give a kids cooking skills class, because like Magdalena said, I mean, kids can learn to cook at almost any age, but we need to show them how. So, and that's the best way to get them to love real food. And I have a children's mindfulness expert to come in and we can together practice some gratitude and mindfulness exercises and lots more fun stuff. So definitely, get your hands on those, because many of you may be new to me. I just want to make sure that you guys have the opportunity to grab that.
Absolutely. And and you are one of those people who just produces incredible quality content. There's no fluff in what you come up with. Every single post I actually read, even though I'm not a target audience, I'm not a mom, I don't have much interest in children, but I read your posts because they're so insightful, so well researched, and so well put together. It's just a delight. So I can imagine the book is nothing but only that too. So
thank you.
All right, everyone. Thanks for being here today. I hope you find it helpful for your families. And thank you, Dr. Song, for being here today with us.
Thanks, Magdalena. Right, I can't wait to see you soon.
Yep. Thanks, everyone, and have a
wonderful. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.